If I would tell you that Hitler rode into Austria with tanks and guns, I would distort history. The fact is, we elected Hitler by 98% of the vote by means of the ballot box. You might ask, how could a country almost 100% Catholic to elect a monster like Hitler? Fact is, Hitler talked like an American politician. Austria in 1938, we had a very, very deep depression. Our economy was literally on the ground. We had 1/3 of our workforce unemployed. We had 25% inflation, and if you borrowed money from the bank, you paid 25% interest. Farmers and businesses were going bankrupt every day, and it was not unusual that about 30 people would knock on our door for a bowl of soup and a slice of bread. It's not that they didn't want to work. There were no jobs. And tons and tons of young people were unemployed. And I remember my mother daily had a kettle of soup on the stove and baked bread every day to feed those hungry people. The other part was we almost had anarchy in our big cities. There were two political factions fighting each other. On one side, the Communist Party was getting very strong. On the other side, Hitler's National Socialist Party. And whole blocks of cities were being destroyed. And of course, the unions, the labor unions, were calling for strikes all the time. And we were so frightened, unemployment and rampant poverty, so we looked to the north of our neighbor country, Germany. Germany had a high living standard. Hitler ruled there since 1933. They had full employment and they had law and order, where we had nearly anarchy. There was just a border between us, the two countries. We spoke the same language, we had the same culture, we were like brothers and sisters, and we said, why not? So we petitioned our government for a plebiscite, an election. And hence we elected Hitler by 98% of the vote. It's also written, I just discovered it just recently in an article. An American journalist, William Shirer, wrote that Hitler literally took Austria over, and he said that there was no election. But the fact is that Hitler, he did have his army on the Austrian border, because the truth was there would be a bloody battle by the raging Communist Party. And that is why Hitler stationed his army on the Austrian border, to avoid a bloody takeover by the communists. And of course, we know in Austria that the communists are atheists, and certainly being 100% Catholic almost, we certainly would not want to have an atheist government. And since we didn't hear anything controversial about Hitler in Germany, so that's why the people voted for Hitler. So we got a new government, National Socialism. Listen carefully, I translate. Nationalsozialismus. From national, the word Nazi derived. We had Nazi socialism. And Hitler promised us everything. He said within a few weeks, people will be employed. And he would feed the hungry people. He would have to help the families, the hungry families. We got free radios. And the radio station immediately was nationalized by the government. That was our only source of news, the government radio station. And if you listen to a foreign radio station like BBC or Switzerland, capital punishment. I didn't see any heroes. Also, Hitler first looted the Jewish banks, took their money, and then he nationalized our banks. Then he nationalized our only car industry. We produced a little car, a little bit bigger than a Fiat, was called the Steyr. He nationalized our only car industry, and later he turned it into a defense industry. He nationalized education. That literally came overnight. I was 12 years old. I went to public school. We prayed in public school, and we had twice a week religious education. That morning, I walked into my classroom, and the crucifix was gone. And there was Hitler's picture with the Nazi flag on each side. And our teacher said, today we don't pray anymore. We sing Deutschland, Deutschland über alles, the national anthem. And she said, instead of religion classes, we would have physical education. And on Sunday, that would be National Youth Day, and it was compulsory to attend. And just in case our parents wouldn't send us, the first time they got a letter of warning, the second time they got fined, and the third time they were jailed. We arrived on Sunday morning, instead of going to church at 8 o'clock, to the gymnasium. The first 2 hours we had political education. Today I would call it indoctrination. That's what it was. We were being told not to listen to our parents. They were old-fashioned old fogies. They did not understand the young people, but only we should listen to Hitler. He would have our best interest. We were the future of the country. Listen only to him. So, literally, what they did, they drove a wedge between our parents and us. And the rest of the day, we had sports. We got all the free equipment. We got tennis rackets. We got everything. The boys of age 16, they got motorcycles, so they could form a motorcycle squad. And not only that, they were taken out to the airfield to fly gliders. Oh, we had so much fun. It was so much more fun than going to church on Sunday. We would come back the end of the day and gleefully told our parents what a wonderful time we had. So much more fun than going to church. Well, my parents did not like what they saw. I was arguing with my parents all the time. And of course, if my mother wouldn't have intervened, today I would be a radical socialist. But my mother was a wise woman. When the next school term came, she announced that she was taking me out of that horrible public school, and she would enroll me in a private school. I would have an excellent curriculum, but not much fun. Packed me off. We arrived at the school, a huge building, an 8-foot wall around, and a locked iron gate. I thought she was going to put me in prison. So when I bid her goodbye, I almost hated her. But she was a wise woman. She said, well, someday, when you grow up, you will realize what I am doing for you. Needless to say, socialism, and under but on the vacation or holidays, I would go back and talk to my former classmates. I didn't like what I saw. 16-year-old girls were having babies for Hitler, and it was so glorified to have a baby for Hitler. You know, he wanted lots of babies with blue eyes and blonde hair to raise the master race. Hitler also nationalized our healthcare system. We had an excellent healthcare system by private insurance. We had good hospitals and we had good doctors. This all changed very fast. Everything, healthcare was free. Everybody could go to the doctor for everything and anything. I remember my brother-in-law was a family physician. He told me that when he arrived at his office in the morning, 40 patients were waiting for him to be treated. He would be, bring your gun to the police station so they could record the serial number, they could catch the criminal, track the criminal. We thought that was a good idea. We certainly were law-abiding citizens. We brought the gun to the police station so they could record the serial number. Didn't take long that the government said, no, it didn't help. They couldn't track the criminal, and children were still getting hurt by playing with guns because guns were so unsafe. And in order not to have any crimes or criminals, do away with the guns altogether and bring the gun in and turn them into the police. Well, you already know who has guns because we registered them. So they took our guns. We were being disarmed. So, ladies and gentlemen, keep your guns and buy more guns. The fact is that in Switzerland, everybody has a gun, and their military is keeping all their equipment at home in the closet, ready to go. And Hitler never tackled Switzerland. He was afraid because they all had guns. And Switzerland never had a war for the last 600 years. So it proves the point. When a nation is being armed, they're not going to be attacked. Our banks are nationalized, our car industry is nationalized, our health care is nationalized, and education is most likely next because we are already getting national standards. And I see a very clear parallel. Thank you. Anybody else?